So what's the best time for you? We could play your games, but I could never see me lose. And I've been checking out your moves. You will slip and slide, but I can always catch your groove. I've been hurt before and saw you inside me. Pulling on my heart, all the strings will fly, see. You can take the cake, I'm just icing. Blow so quick, never fuck with the Pisces. But I learned quick. We could change shape in a tick. With a broken heart and nights apart, I'm wide awake and I'm just still thinking about you. But baby, I've been doing all I can, and baby, I'm not built to fight like on the daily. But you know I just need a little training, and now I'm a little too much. We get stuck in this place where I'm lost without a chase, but I can't seem to find any better use of time. Come on now, baby, yeah, you know I just need a little training. Come get me. So what's the best time for you? Yeah, we can play your games, but I could never see me lose. Yeah, I've been checking out.
Hi there, this is Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do, and it's your old pal Jake coming at you from America in a somewhat desperate situation on account of the fascism. But you know what? I'm happy today because it's the eve of a potentially wonderful day. It's a eve. It's the eve of a day that a lot of Americans look forward to, Justice Day in the USA. Man, I can't wait for it. I am, of course, talking about Donald Trump getting a pair of bracelets for Christmas. I do not actually think he would be arrested on Christmas Day, but an amazing holiday miracle has been happening, which is that everybody is doing their part, except for the Grinch. We're going to talk about them in a minute. I'm talking about Don Lemon, a dedicated corporate media guy, somebody that does not normally rock the boat, spending December 23 talking to a White House aide about why an ex-president should go to prison. Don Lemon, if you guys aren't familiar, at some point I think I'm going to do like a ranking list of corporate media figures and where they stand in terms of getting it right. I would not put Don Lemon very high on that list. I don't think he does a bad show overall. For the most part, I mean, if you're comparing any other network to Fox News, journalism awards left and right, because they actually follow some sort of ethical guidelines. But it is nonetheless unusual to see them actually try to hold someone powerful accountable. Why is it happening? Well, when I say everybody is doing their part to get Trump those bracelets, I'm including Donald Trump. The guy cannot shut up long enough to let America forget about him, that's the tonic. That is the cure most powerful people use every time they get in trouble. They just for a couple of months, and then America forgets about it, and then the Justice Department lets them go. That's how it's supposed to work. But as you've seen, if you've watched this show, Trump is on Truth Social calling for another coup. He's really trying to make it happen. The January 6th committee, a bunch of centrists, not a lefty, not a genuine lefty on there. They're not pulling their punches. They're coming out and saying it. They're making it clear. They understand how to communicate to people. The Republicans on the J6 committee doing their part. In fact, they're arguably doing a better job of knocking this guy out than the Democrats. The former White House staff, Trump's people, that don't want to go to prison, they're doing their part. Let's revel in this a little bit and also look at the summary of the January 6 notes, so you can see the major takeaways, how obvious it is that Donald Trump committed a crime, and I'll tell you at the end as well, you can help, because the only way Trump actually gets those bracelets is his holiday gift from a free America. The only way that happens is if this stays in the public consciousness. If you're wondering, say, you mighty balding eagle, why have you done 3 videos in a row on Trump's crimes? Because it's got to stay in the public consciousness. It's not a coincidence. It's because this is the time. If it's going to happen, there is a particularly cowardly attorney general that needs to be forced to. The Grinch of this story is Merrick Garland, who is terrified at the prospect of doing his job. Actually having to do his job, actually having to hold Trump accountable and order the cuffs to be put on him, it's his very worst nightmare. He should not have been appointed to this position. He should not have accepted it. But here we are. So let's look at my good pal Don Lemon.
The January 6th committee has released its final report. It is 845 pages. This document is based on more than 1,000 interviews, emails, text messages, and year-and-a-half-long investigation. And this is what they found. They found that evidence has led to an overriding and straightforward conclusion. The central cause of January 6th was one man, and that is former President Donald Trump, whom many others followed. None of the events of January 6th would have happened without him. So let's bring in now former Trump White House Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Matthews. Sarah, by the way, I should say Sarah resigned on January 6th and testified before the January 6th committee. Sarah, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. This is an extensive report, no doubt. The committee places the blame right at the feet of the former President Trump for this insurrection, and they conclude that he should be barred from office. Do you believe that this report is the next step in accountability for the former president? And do you agree that he should be barred from office?
So just Don Lemon teeing it up there. First of all, let's address the elephant in the room. The man is dressed like Usher in 2012. I'm not sure why he made that choice, but I am sure that I love it. I don't entirely agree with his politics. I don't entirely agree with the people he chooses to interview, although in this case I do. But he, I'm going to call it as I sees it. He's a smoke show. Let's hear what she has to say. Does she agree, this former White House aide, that Trump should get those bracelets for Christmas?
I do agree with that assessment. I think that the report shows that this was a very orchestrated effort by Trump and his co-conspirators to try to overturn the election, and that on January 6th, it played out exactly how Donald Trump wanted it to. He sat by and watched as the riot unfolded and never once picked up the phone to try to call for help, even when his own VP was under attack. And so I do think that he shouldn't hold office ever again. And I hope that this report now, that DOJ will have all of the evidence that the committee has collected, will go forth and hopefully do something with it.
So, Sarah, I'm sure you're surprised, not surprised that you're in here, right? So there is one part in your interview with the committee where you talk about your realization that Trump was saying on January 6th that it was indefensible. What do you say to people, some of your former colleagues or members of the GOP, who still don't see what he did was wrong?
I do have to do a point of contention there, because imagine a little fawn, a newborn deer, just getting its legs beneath it. Oh, trying to stand, trying to run through the fields for the first time. Oh, This is Don Lemon learning how to get serious with Republican crime. Um, it is not that they still don't believe that Trump did something wrong. It's that they do not say it. They are liars. Let me go back a little bit. Let's get his exact words there.
Who still don't see what he did was wrong.
Yeah, it's not that they don't see that. They know that. They know damn well that they were participating in a crime, and they're currently still encouraging crime. They know it. Don't give them the benefit of the doubt. All of the evidence is plain. If a dummy like your old pal Jake can on the day of January 6th be calling every event before it happens, which is what happened. They know. They all know. Do not forget that. They are doing this intentionally. They lie to the American public. It's as simple as that.
It is disappointing to see that, some of my former colleagues don't have the same opinions on January 6th that I did. I mean, on January 6th, I knew that Trump's behavior was indefensible.
About what to do.
And at that time, I didn't even have a full scope of the whole picture. And so now seeing everything that the committee has uncovered.
It's also important to note here what she just said. She didn't know everything. She knew some things. Why is that important? Because this was such a crime. There are so many levels of crime here. Any person with 2 eyes and a conscience should come to the conclusion that Trump ought to have been arrested that very day. None of this should have been allowed to happen, and after it did happen, it needs to be dealt with those bracelets.
And truly seeing just how much Trump didn't care and didn't, it wasn't even that he didn't want to act, or it was that he didn't even want to act. He didn't care about the riot unfolding, and it was indefensible, his behavior that day. And I think even more so, his behavior since then. He's never felt any remorse for his role in January 6th, and he continues to push his lies that the election was stolen.
I want to read some other stuff, but just real quickly, was this?
I wish Republicans were not on the dark side, because when they actually come out the gates and go after people, they're effective. The way she just spoke just then, yes, hitting the nail on the head. This guy is a danger.
The final straw for you, or were there things that led up to this, or did you at this moment have an epiphany and say, I can't do this any longer? Is that why you resigned?
It was definitely a slow burn for me after the election. I knew on election night that we were going to lose. I think I saw when Georgia wasn't trending our way that it didn't spell a recipe for success. And so I knew then that we had lost. And I think then the president chose to pursue litigation and everything. And I had hoped that once that litigation failed, he would proceed with the peaceful transfer of power. But then when, January 6th came about, obviously that did not happen. And so it definitely was a slow burn for me after the election. But on January 6th, his behavior was definitely the final straw.
Okay, got it.
They go on. Much more of the same. I've of course included in the show notes the link to that video. A rare W, in my opinion, for Don Lemon. I hope he keeps at it, and whoever is responsible for a wardrobe, well done. It was a wild choice, but it works. So when I say everybody's doing their part, I mean they are keeping this crime in the public conscious. It is the way that Garland will be pressured into actually acting. This guy is, in case you don't know what he looks like, because you should. This guy, right here, He's not going to do anything. I do actually a fantastic impression of him. Let's see if I can get that Garland voice. So, Merrick Garland, if he doesn't see this on the news every time he turns on the TV, opens up a newspaper because he's 1,000, if he's not getting emails and calls, he will take that as a pass to try to get away with just like writing a summary of events and ending that with, and so we didn't charge him because he's a president. We can't do that because if a former president is a powerful person. That's what he'll try to do. However, everyone in the country is working on this Grinch, including USA Today. They wrote a wonderful article that summed up the 800-plus page document. I tried to get through it last night. I don't read so quick. But I did look at the sections I was looking forward to most, confirmed in greater detail, more or less what I was expecting to see. I will do a perhaps fuller breakdown video about that in the future. But first, let's look at USA Today's breakdown because I think they nailed it. Also, USA Today is extremely corporate media. Delightful to see them getting on board the Trump to jail train. Point 1, Trump was the central cause. The report puts the blame squarely on the former president. The central cause of January 6th was one man, former President Donald Trump, who many others followed. None of the events of January 6th would have happened without him. File that under it's obvious, yet. There are a nearly, not an infinite number of ways, but the ways at which the Justice Department will look to not put Trump in prison are many. And this is USA Today, and frankly, this is January 6th committee, cutting off those paths, trying to blame his lawyer instead of him, for example. They might have put his lawyer alone in prison, saying he wasn't advised correctly. So John Eastman's going to jail, not prison, jail. He's going to do 8 months. That's the kind of thing they'd try to do. So this is really underlining that none of the events of January 6th, 7 people died. 7 people would not have died if not for Trump's actions. Whew. Merry whatever. That's awesome. The attack was foreseeable. Also part of their Captain Obvious section. But still, the report gives a damning account of law enforcement's response to troubling intelligence before the attack. The risk to the Capitol was foreseeable, the report said. Down the line, after we have put Trump in prison for the rest of his life, after that, we are going to have a reckoning with law enforcement. The fact that we know a Black Lives Matter protest would have, at a minimum, been hit with rubber bullets, maybe go old-fashioned, do hoses and German Shepherds again. The fact that we know that would have been handled so differently needs to be addressed. We can't live in a country that allows that level of corruption, which is what it is. But keeping it light, keeping it happy, because this is all good news for people who are interested in justice. The attack was foreseeable. Leans more into the man should have had those bracelets before January 6th even. In fact, Trump tried to speak with Georgia's Secretary of State 18 times in an effort to overturn Joe Biden's win in the state. It's like a guy that has been told no indirectly by a gal who's clearly not into him, but too polite to be mean about it. I mean, 18 times. Now, an interesting thing here. Why didn't Georgia's Secretary of State, Georgia's Secretary of State, just contact the Justice Department and be like, hey, the president's trying to get me to do something illegal. Go deal with him. Well, I don't think it's fair for me, who would love to just hammer him. But I don't think it's fair for me to demand that of him, because he would have had to talk to Bill Barr, who would have ratted him out to Trump, who would have possibly sent crazies after him. I mean, we really genuinely had an administration that was that corrupt. It's not unreasonable for him to have just essentially turtled up like he did. Normally all for stepping on the gas, getting things done. But in this case, even though he's being contacted 18 times, I think all he could do was stand strong. And even though I despise this man on nearly every other action he's taken in his life, I got to admit, that was a very American thing for him to have done. He stood up for democracy. He really could not, but nonetheless, he was getting pressured, and he did not overturn the results. Good man. Oh, so here's where we really start to get the knife twisting. The entire White House senior staff wanted Trump to intervene. Everyone around this guy. There's a mens rea is a legal term that refers to the state of mind of someone surrounding a crime. It's very important for charging. So if Trump could say, well, everybody was telling me that it was fine when the riot was happening, if he could pretend like he thought that the riot was anything other than a dangerous situation, he would, of course, be let off, as flimsy as that excuse would be. But no, the Jan 6 committee has basically nailed him. The entire White House senior staff was in favor of a presidential statement urging all rioters to leave the Capitol, the report said. The report didn't just say this arbitrarily. This section I did look at. They have the receipts. They have his entire senior staff, who didn't just slam on pleading the fifth, confirming it. That is indeed what happened. He should have, at the very least, after causing this riot, if it wasn't purely a coup attempt, which it was, the thing to do would have been to tell the people to stop. Send one tweet as soon as people started shaking those barricades. One tweet. Didn't do it. Now, just to make it so clear that it was an attempted coup, here's another little point. Trump floated the idea of having 10,000 troops to protect him. 2 days before the assault, then President Trump persisted in his desire to accompany demonstrators on a march to the Capitol, suggesting 10,000 National Guard troops could provide protection for him and an entourage. Protection from who? I imagine the prosecutor is going to be saying in about 8 months. Protection from who? If you're getting protection from, say, the DC police, son, that's a civil war. 10,000 troops rolling in with him, as well as a crowd of his rabid supporters. That's an armed coup. that's a whole nother level. Remember, this guy is still out there calling for another one. I think that's more or less the nail in the coffin. This can't be ignored. It can't be. It can't be if we want to survive as a country. Garland will still try. Hold up. He's still going to try it. He's got the holidays. And you could just... God, he looks like a kid that knows he's about to get a Werther's from grandma. I almost want to feel bad for him, except he accepted a job that requires a grown-up. He's hoping that over the course of Christmas and New Year's, the majority of Americans will forget about this. He's hoping some other grand thing happens between now and then, and that draws all the attention, and then it dies down a little bit. January 6th committee can't do anything else. That means now is the time to be demanding action from this punk. Everybody's doing their part. Corporate media is doing their part. Lord knows lefties are doing their part. Trump is doing his part by just not being able to shut up about it. We got to get that Grinch to give the gift of 2 beautiful bracelets to Trump. How can you do that? How can you get involved? Well, in the show notes, there is, of course, the Justice Department's contact information. I recommend, if you're on vacation from work, or since you live in America, most likely, you just have reduced hours, maybe. Go ahead and write them and let him know you're not going to forget. Every time you see content talking about this, calling for the arrest of Donald Trump, talking about January 6th in general, like it. Simple as that. Write a comment. That boosts the content in the algorithm. Keeping it in the public consciousness is how we force that coward to do his job. Otherwise, he's going to let it fade away. We can't have that. The outlook, shockingly, looks good. There's a very real chance with the weight of this information that this country will finally be forced to deal with its Republican problem, with its inability to hold Republicans accountable for law breaking. From Nixon till now, we have not been able to do it. The time is here. If we don't do it, if we don't establish a line that cannot be crossed, there goes the country. But the good news is, everybody seems to be behind it. Use that link, contact the Justice Department. If you see Joe Biden on social media, demand from him to either replace Garland or to, just yell at him. Regardless, I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season. I know that I will. I will be getting mildly intoxicated on eggnog and maybe placing some bets with my friends about how soon into 2023 Trump's going to get those bracelets. I'm starting to wonder if it might be sooner than we think. Regardless, thank you for joining me today. This is... Never get that outro right. This is Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. This has been your old pal Jake. I'll see you next time.
Joy in the air. Everybody's going home to the people they care for the most. And I'm on my way, 'cause you're my happy holiday. Na, 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 na. You're my happy holiday.